So let's talk about some do's and don'ts for handling remote trials. Do you have any suggestions in terms of how attorneys should set up for handling a remote trial?
I do. So one setup that I suggest is to have, in your office, one conference room to be sort of the courtroom conference room where you have the attorney who's live on screen, and a separate, what I would call the war room conference room, where you have the rest of the team, assuming there's a team of several lawyers and paralegals, the rest of the team can speak at normal volume, can shuffle around noisy documents, print things. And that's actually the setup that you and I had when we did our first remote trial during the pandemic, and I thought it worked really well. What would be another suggestion that you might have?
In another one of our videos, I mentioned that I thought a benefit of remote trials was being able to see the witness and the judge and opposing counsel's faces on the screen right in front of you. But that's only a benefit if you take advantage of it. And so what I would suggest is if you're going to have multiple lawyers or a paralegal with you in the room while you're conducting the remote trial, make sure that somebody knows that it's their job to take a look at the witness's face or at the judge's face while the questioning is happening. Because that way they can tell you, is a judge interested in a line of questioning, and should you continue asking those questions? Is a judge bored with the line of questioning and maybe you should move on? Is the witness seeming stressed out about a question and maybe that indicates that there should be some more follow-up on it? And so I think if you use those cues and have somebody paying attention, it could be a huge advantage.
Definitely, and that's where you can pass a note or something to your colleague if you see that something's happening on screen that they should be aware of. Speaking of body language, another thing that I would mention is that the attorney should really practice the art of speaking to a screen, which is definitely different from addressing an in-person judge or jury. And what I would do is put your face close enough to the screen, not awkwardly close. And then for the more important arguments or statements like opening or closing statement, I would really try to focus, glance your eyes to where the camera is on the screen. And one thing that I've done for that is I put my notes right on the screen and I scroll so that the notes appear really close to the camera, so then it looks like I'm looking straight at the audience. And for those more important statements, I would try to avoid looking at other people's camera, because then it looks like you're looking away, and maybe you'll lose your audience when you do that. Rely on your colleagues to do that, as you just said. And so what about something like screen sharing? Would you recommend that?
I do. I think screen sharing can be a really useful way to put exhibits up and have everyone be looking at the same part of the exhibit at the same time. I think a lot of times in an in-person trial or a remote trial, if you're not using screen sharing, you might refer to an exhibit and everyone goes through their exhibit binder to find the exhibit, and then maybe it takes another few minutes for everyone to find the same page, and may not even find the same page. And so if you can have the exact page and line that you're looking for and talking about with the witness up on the screen, I think that's really advantageous. But again, that's not something that just happens. It's something you have to practice. In the recent remote trial that we did, we had a paralegal who was in the trial with us every day, and the week before the trial, multiple times we sat with her and we practiced, when we refer to an exhibit during an examination of a witness, pulling up the exhibit, finding the right page, finding the right line and highlighting that line. And so we were able to, during the trial, do that really seamlessly.